Good evening, everyone. And today we'll have a small discussion on small ticket investments in real estate. And I'll kind of cover as a concept both residential as well as commercial in this. So, in this particular discussion today, we are not going to have a leaning towards a commercial or a residential property. The idea would be small investments which over a period of time can give handsome returns. And what are the criteria or the highlights of small ticket investments and also some of the drawbacks of these small ticket investments. So I am Captain Vipul Choudhary. I am ex-48 Gorkha Rifles. I have done my MBA in finance from MDI Gurgaon, and I also hold a Bachelor of Arts in Law. I've been in real estate now for almost 17 odd years since 2008. And I can say that I have a fair idea of how the industry works, what are the technical, legal, and other aspects of the industry. So, to move our discussion ahead, I'll be using a presentation with you all. You can have a look at the presentation. And then, if at the end of the presentation, all and any questions are welcome. So the topic is making wealth with small ticket real estate investments. That's the basic idea of today's discussion. As a very general guide, as a very general rule, what is a small ticket investment? Now, it can vary from people to people. My data is more based on NCR as a real estate micro market because that's where I have been doing work, and my knowledge is more or less limited to NCR, some parts of Chandigarh, broadly to NCR. In NCR, I would be able to say that an investment which is falling between the price range of 20 to 125 lakh also for some people is a small ticket investment. As a median figure, one would say anything around 40 odd lakh, what one can say is a small ticket investment in the NCR real estate. Anything which you can purchase investments in real estate, commercial oblique residential, with a median figure of 40 odd lakhs should qualify as a small ticket investment for the purpose of this particular discussion. Second, a small ticket investment should allow you diversification. When I say that, the point is that let's say if I have 1 CR to invest, then a small ticket investment is something wherein I can split my investments into two, three different kinds or two, three different investments and still be able to achieve my investment objectives by spreading my risk. So I should be able to diversify. Uh, these investments would essentially be not located in already developed or the present prime locations because there the prices would have already risen to a level that the prices would not qualify the investment, that the investment becomes a small ticket investment. And as the name says, most of these investments would not fall in the luxury offerings or the, I would say, except for you have undivided, unlockable office spaces, not even the grade A office spaces or very high end retail spaces. So these would be the four criteria which would kind of define or bound the selection of a small ticket investment when you are going to make or you want to make an investment of this sort. This is what you should be okay with. Examples of small ticket investment, at least when it comes to the NCR portion, 1, 2, or 3 BHK in affordable housing projects of the Haryana government, that would qualify as a small ticket investment. Commercial shops as a part of housing condominiums, and this would be applicable to the entire NCR, whether it is Noida, Greater Noida, Gurgaon, Faridabad, etc. So all housing societies, whenever they are a license is given to them for development, a small portion, depending on the location or depending on the licensing authority, a small portion is kept aside for daily needs commercial shops. And those are not the big ticket or the big format retail. They are usually small format retails, individual shops which are meant to cater for the daily requirements of the residents of a particular society. They also work as small ticket investments. Then is the studio oblique service apartments as a part of commercial development. Without getting into too many details, suffice to say that large commercial developments have some portion of their design or the buildings designed in a way that they can be used as furnished studio oblique service apartments, and they become a part of they can be used as small ticket investments by investors for generating rental incomes in for a sufficiently long period. The next point is in lieu. If it is not a studio or a service apartment, then it can be a small office space in a commercial building, generally in high rise commercial buildings, as a part of mixed usage where you also have retail on the ground, first and second floors, and then the balance of the FAR is used for development of commercial offices, and those commercial offices are not priced at the same rate at what the retail commercial is priced, and this can also be a part of a investor's portfolio when it comes to a small ticket investment. Another option which investors can look at is the economically weaker section or the lower income group housing options which are available as part of regular housing projects. So typically, where is this inventory? This inventory is not available in the open market, or builders are not allowed to sell this inventory to everyone by asking investors or asking buyers to come and participate. This inventory is mostly available in the secondary market after it has crossed the government set limits of being allowed to be resold. So, how it happens is that let's say DLF is coming up with a regular housing project. So, when DLF comes up with a regular housing project, a portion of their project they have to develop as an economically weaker section, and that economically weaker section property is then handed over to the government authorities. The government authorities invite applications from people who qualify as under the economically weaker section criteria as set by the government, which keeps on getting revised from time to time. Then those individuals are allotted the economically weaker section of regular housing properties. After some period, let's say in Haryana it is 5 years, it could be different for different states. Once the locking period is has been completed, then these properties can be purchased by any investor from the secondary market, and they are also a good way to invest in real estate. And they are similarly like in Delhi, DDA comes up with the lower income group housing, the one bedroom expendables, etc. So they are also part of the small ticket investment. Then is the 1 or 2 BHK apartments in suburbs of suburbs. When I say suburb of suburb, so for example, it would be Lal Kuan for Ghaziabad. Ghaziabad is now a developed suburb of Delhi, and Lal Kuan is a suburb which is developing for Ghaziabad. Similarly, when you move ahead of in the farther sections of Greater Noida, you'll find smaller properties coming up. On this side, if you look at Dharuheda, Bhiwadi, those are like essentially suburbs of Gurgaon. So there you will find 1 or 2 BHK apartments in the range of 15 to 25 lakhs. So these are the places where you find in the suburbs of suburbs also you find small ticket investments which can and which ideally should form a part of your real estate investment portfolio. Before we move on to the advantages of a small ticket investment, let's first understand what can be the risk or the disadvantages of making a small ticket investment, so that it's not, I mean, everything is not just all goody goody about it. First, initially, and more so if let's say you purchase an office space in a high rise commercial building, there is a very likely chance that for initial 2 3 years you will not be able to get a tenant, or if you get a tenant, then the rentals would not be very exciting. The rentals would be in the range of 3 to 4% annualized as compared to the price at which you're looking. This is because the FAR is used to create a lot of office spaces. So there is a considerable amount of supply as compared to what probably the demand would be in that particular area initially. So if you're buying an office space in a high-rise building as a part of an investment, you should be okay for initial 3 to 5 years that either you will not get well-paying tenants, or probably even there could be a time lag between the tenant, you getting a tenant, and the property start yielding you a rental yield as compared to the date from which you acquire the property. There you should be prepared to pay the maintenance of the property from your own side as a holding cost of the property. So when you're making this purchase, you should be okay in terms of, or you should rather calculate the maintenance period for initial 2 3 years as a part of the acquisition cost, so that it does not come as an unpleasant surprise to you at a later stage. Then second is a faster tenant turnout. So all these properties which I had listed in the previous slide, they are essentially properties which would be tenanted by people who do not belong to the higher income groups of the society. So they are very, very rent sensitive, and their jobs are migrant. Or if you have taken, let's say, a commercial property, then it is a small business person who gets troubled by the vagaries of the market more as compared to an MNC, etc. Therefore, the tenant turnover in the initial periods would be higher. Implication being that your transaction costs can be higher. You might have to pay more brokerages every 11 months finding a new tenant and things like that. Then it's difficult to finance, especially the commercial properties, smaller commercial properties, smaller than a certain size. Banks are not open to giving commercial property loan on those properties because, as per banks, they are not sufficient collaterals. So raising finance can be difficult. Similarly, for economically weaker section properties, banks may not be very open to giving loans on those properties. So you have to kind of find the entire money to acquire these properties from your own funds. Finding viable options. Now, when I say finding viable options, because the ticket is small in these properties, because the builders do not really advertise these properties for a very simple reason that they don't really form an attractive sell for them. Similarly, not too many brokers want to sell them because for brokers also, there isn't much brokerage to be made. So there are not too many active players at given points in time who are ready to or working in these markets. So finding viable options, even though you might have money, you might be inclined to buy these properties. Finding viable options always may not be possible. And then you need more hands-on management in these properties because of the fact that initially the tenants who occupy these properties would not be very high gentry tenants. So you need to be more involved with the tenants in terms of the rentals to be paid or your maintenance, etc., to be paid, utility bills to be paid, so on and so forth. So you just can't lease it out and then think that now everything has been taken care of. You'll have to be more hands-on and more involved with your tenants when you're acquiring these kind of properties. Now, what are the advantages of these properties? Other than the fact that they can be difficult to find or locate, from a financial point of view, they are easier to acquire. So you can acquire a property for 20, 30, 40 lakh rupees and then keep it with you. You don't need to, you will, I mean, generally speaking, these properties would not be a distress to you. So you will not need to sell them under any kind of a distress. So it is easier to acquire and easier to maintain over a longer period of time. With these properties, you can achieve diversification in your real estate portfolios. Instead of buying a big property and then thinking that, what if this goes wrong? You can split your investments in 2, 3 different places and diversify your real estate portfolios. Build a diversified portfolio over a period of time. So small ticket investments, you can probably purchase something worth 20 lakhs now, wait for another 5, 7 years, use the rental receipts from this property to pay off the loans, pick up another similar property 7, 8 years down, so on and so forth, and develop a diversified real estate portfolio. If you are looking to have a liquid portfolio in real estate, then multiple units purchased in these kind of investments can also give you the enhanced liquidity. Another benefit is that you have higher cash flows when you are buying a small ticket investment. Once these properties start maturing, that is, after 3 to 5 years of acquisition, the per square foot yield in terms of rent is higher. So, as to give an example, an economically weaker section property or a 1 BHK and an affordable housing in Gurgaon can fetch you returns to the tune of around 6 to 8K per month on a rental for a property which might be costing you anything from 14 to 20 lakh rupees, which works out to a rental yield of around 4 to 4.5% on an annualized basis, which is as good as a fixed deposit return. So the cash flows are higher, the rental yield is higher. देन द स्पॉटिंग रिस्क या जिसको कहते हैं कि कोई मेरी प्रॉपर्टी पे कब्जा तो नहीं कर लेगा, वो इन प्रॉपर्टीज में कंपैरेटिवली कम होता है फॉर अ वेरी सिंपल रीजन. The tenants are not as strong that they can, just squat in your property and you're not able to get them vacated. They do not have the means to actually get into protracted legal hassles or become difficult with the landlord. So, as a landlord, you are usually in a stronger position as compared to these tenants. On the other hand, if you have, let's say, if you have a bigger property, you have given it to a stronger tenant, the tenant, if they wish to, they can create a lot of headache for the landlord. So here, the squatting risk or the usurping risk of the property is much less. A smaller investment, you can actually time it to be financial ability. When I say this, let's say you have a child whom you want to support for higher education, and you know that that time will come 10 years from now. I use this as a personal example. My elder daughter is now 8 years. So another 10 years, I will need to spend a considerable amount of money for her higher education. I can right now pick up a property which is, let's say, 15 to 20 lakh rupees in a place like Bhiwadi or an affordable housing or an economically weaker section. For 10 odd years, I wait on that property. The property gives me a capital appreciation in 10 years. I can either sell it to finance my daughter's education, or I can simply go ahead and mortgage the property to raise an education loan for her higher education. So I can actually kind of acquire these assets to meet certain financial obligations. I can acquire smaller properties to augment my pensions in my old age. So this can also form a part of a retirement plan if someone is starting early and wants rental incomes as uh, to supplement their pensions. Then most of the times these properties are located in areas where investors themselves are not going to go and stay. So you're location agnostic and your emotional involvement is low because you're not going to stay or use these properties for own usage. So they people are able to take more rational decisions when it comes to small ticket investment as compared to buying residential real estate for own usage, or maybe buying a retail shop for own businesses where your emotional involvement is much higher and therefore you can end up making not so optimal investment decisions. On the other hand, here people tend to make better investment decisions because of the fact that they are not going to be using these properties themselves. What are the financial goals that can be achieved with these investments? As I said, one, you can buy something which can assist you in your children's education. You can keep the property as a collateral for raising education loan, or you can sell the property at a certain time when that particular goal is reached. Similarly, for a child's marriage, if you are wanting to acquire an asset today, you have a young child whom you feel that you would need that, and this becomes kind of an secure investment which you can then make a sale at that point in time. Similarly, an asset for generating rentals to provide for pension income. And last point is self-explanatory. You can just read it. What are the expected returns? And this is what we have kind of in our practice of last 15, 17 years. This is what we have come across. People could have different experiences. I mean, the returns could be slightly higher or lower depending on what assets others have invested in. This is what we have been able to achieve for our clients, more or less. Up to 5 years, the rental returns are around 4% in these small ticket investments. Capital appreciation compounded is around 5 to 7%. So a combined CAGR of 8% is what can be achieved in these investments if the investment horizon is 5 years. Another 5 years, 5 to 10 years, the rental yields tend to get to 5 to 6%. The capital appreciations also improve from 8 to 10% because when you're buying a smaller investment, it is essentially in an area which is still not part of the main cities or the main metropolis. Over a period of time, the population and the amenities and infra continues to grow. As a result, the demand for your property is continuing to grow, and the rental yields and also the capital appreciation continues to get better. Further ahead, the rental yields go to around 6 to 8%. We have seen typically after 12 to 13 years of acquisition of these kind of assets, the rental yields come to around 1% per annum rental yields, which is in addition to the capital appreciation. So after 15 odd years, the capital appreciation and rental yields easily become 18 to 20%, even in excess of that. So smaller investment, which is held for a period of 15 to 20% or higher, tends to give a combined yield averaged of rentals as well as CAGR of anything of 22% and higher to investors who stay put with that kind of a time horizon and even beyond. So it continues to yield rentals over, I mean, a remainder of investors holding. Why should investors look at making these investments? Or rather, I would say, when should investors look at making these investments? One, once you have purchased your own home, आपने अपना रहने का घर खरीद लिया है, वो आपका एक मेजर सवाल जो था उसका आपने जवाब दे दिया है। अब उसके बाद में सेकंड थर्ड मल्टीपल प्रॉपर्टी इन्वेस्टमेंट्स जब भी आप करते हैं, instead of going for regular housing options, so let's say you want to purchase a house 4 bedroom for your own residence in a DLF property, fine, go ahead, do that. That question has been settled. Next, when you have another tranche of money available for making an investment, instead of looking at a DLF 3 or 4 bedroom, it might make sense for you to go for a smaller property, maybe split the next investment into two smaller properties and make that investment. Another option where these investments can be of use to you is if you are making a considerable investment in debt funds. Instead of debt funds, you can look at smaller real estate investments. And why more so? Because as of this last budget, which was presented by the finance minister, they have removed the indexation benefit from the debt funds, which was available earlier. If you held a debt fund for 3 years or more, the returns on the debt fund, you could use indexation benefit. Now that particular benefit has been done away with. Therefore, what you can do now is instead of making that investment in a debt fund from where you were getting a regular rental return, you can make that investment in a commercial or a small property. Continue get the indexation benefit if you hold it for more than 2 years, because then it becomes a long-term capital gain and indexation benefit is available, and also get capital appreciation. Finally, if you have sold some property, you want to make an investment of the capital gains amount, then a small ticket investment can come handy to you for deploying that capital gains amount. What are the taxation benefits? Small residential assets and properties can be used to absorb the capital gains. If you have sold some residential property somewhere and you want to make a capital gain, you can use these for making that kind of a investment. Then home loan interest can be used for income tax benefit under Section 24 of the Income Tax Act. Again, subject to a limit of 2 lakh rupees. But if your earlier investment is not breaching that 2 lakh rupees, a small investment can be added, and the interest which you pay towards the servicing of that home loan can be utilized for tax benefits under the Section 24 of the Income Tax Act. Similarly, even the commercial property loan interest paid can be used for income tax benefit under Section 24 of the Income Tax Act. A lot of investors are not aware of this, but this is provision which is available. Loans raised on commercial property, the interest paid on those loans is equally available to you to be used for reducing your tax liability under Section 24 of the Income Tax Act. So these are the taxation benefits of investing in a small ticket real estate. This works out to around 1% towards increasing your yield. A taxation benefit increases your return by around 1%. Compounded over a long period of time, that itself is a very handsome return on the investments you have made. Now, how to find these investments? As I said, finding them can be a little difficult. So these are some of the pointers. You can look at commercial shops and housing projects. So if you are speaking to a broker wherein the broker is suggesting you some housing project, can be by any builder. By design, this inventory would be available. The broker may not be suggesting it to you because probably the brokerage is low, so the broker's incentive is low. But most of the time, these inventories are available. So you can also speak to builders directly for acquiring these. Similarly, in commercial properties, these inventories are available in the office spaces. So in the mixed usage commercial properties where generally the food courts or the retail and the other investments are, you can specifically ask for these office spaces. You can look at 1 or 2 BHK units in affordable housing. And there would be options available. And in the resale or the subsidized housing market, you can find the EWS options for that. You can go to these property websites, specifically look for smaller properties, 150 square feet, 160 square feet, 200 square feet. Under the residential options, you should be able to get some discounts. This is a piece of advice. How can you enhance rental yield from these investments? So let's say you have purchased a small office space and now you want a tenant to come. If you've made an investment of around 40 lakh rupees in an office space, you want a tenant to come. Generally, the office spaces are provided as raw shell or bare shells. Therefore, it makes sense if you can either convert it into a co-working or you can furnish the office and then attract a tenant. You will find one, the availability of tenant goes high and your rental goes high. So an additional 5-7 lakh of investment in doing up your residential or commercial property, because the tenants who are looking at these smaller investments are usually young people or smaller businesses. They do not want to spend money, or rather, I would say, they do not have money to spend upfront on developing or acquiring the basic infrastructure of an office or an house. But if you as a owner are able to provide, then you are able to charge an higher rental and also attract a tenant faster. So that's how you can improve your yield from these smaller investment. A lot of time, what happens is that an investor purchases or invests in the property but does not make this last mile investment. So an investor purchases a property for around 2.5, 3 lakh rupees, but does not make an additional investment of 3-4 lakhs in doing up the property, which can then yield better returns. So I would strongly recommend that if you have any such property, or if you are wishing to acquire any such property, then keep these costs provisioned beforehand so that later on they are not a challenge for you. What are the safeguards when you are buying these properties? And this is essential. Buy ready to use assets mostly. I mean, that's something which I've been saying for a long time. Unless until you are someone who is very confident that you're working with people who have that kind of wherewithal, please buy ready to use assets, even though you might be paying a tad higher, but it kind of more or less makes up in reducing the anxiety and the stress and anything which can go wrong. Bargain hard. Most of the times in real estate, it pays to bargain hard. Make sure there are no legal restrictions. Like I made some suggestions about buying 1 BHK in affordable housing or EWS. Make sure that the technical or the laid down thresholds by different government agencies have been met and you're not buying something where there can be legal challenge. A lot of time, unauthorized properties are available at lower tickets. People tend to buy them. I would say, unless until you are someone who is actually present there and is very, very confident of the paperwork, don't do that. Can be a challenge. Unauthorized properties, there can be multiple sales, title issues, marketability issues, legal hassles. If you really know someone who you can trust beyond doubt, okay, fine, but not usually from the open market. A lot of times, what you can do is if you are, you know, not comfortable spending 50, 60, 70 lakhs, and let's say there is an asset worth that much amount, 3, 4, 5 friends can create an afford holding company and acquire this kind of an asset. Works out well and not very difficult to trade also in times to come. In summary, I can say that with less risk, you can acquire good established assets in these kind of properties and build good wealth over a period of time. If you usually are able to hold on to these properties from 12 to 15 years and onwards, your overall yield should go beyond 22, 23, 24%. I am done with my part.
You gotta focus on yourself, on your faith, on your dreams, on your mind.